back to What the Frap with your host J-Zilla. I'm here with my guest, the Marine, who's back with us. Thank goodness, Mr. Sturgess. How are you there?
Good, I'm doing good, man. Yeah,
Yeah, you're looking good. Clean cut. Looks like the energy is flowing right.
I coming back from the mountain, dude, this weekend.
Yeah, where'd you go?
I went to Jimenez, and I don't know the exact location, but it's a mountain, right?
It's a mountain.
It's a mountain, man. And
Uh-huh.
me and my son usually just one day we just camp out there, and it was actually winter, and I just said, hey, I bet we could just stay out here today, right?
Yeah,
And we did though. We just did. We just stayed out with some random stuff, and then I said, I bet we could climb this mountain right here. And
hmm
then maybe 2 months later, man, I'm buying rope to climb the mountain, So uh,
Wow.
that happens, right? It's kind
Yeah,
of like you have to set the destiny in place, right? You mentioned it, you plant the seed. Hey, I bet we could do this.
yeah.
And then it happens if you continue watering that seed, right? So,
That's really cool because I know that we're very aiming people, you know, and what
right,
people don't realize is that one, our environment has a lot to do with the decisions that we make. I mean, whether it be the media, whatever you're consuming, right?
right.
What you
Yeah.
eat, all this stuff matters. So being very careful about what we put into our bodies, whether it's mentally, physically, or spiritually, whatever, is very important. So I love how you have to set your aim towards something, and then you just kind of figured out the steps on your way, or as you went. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
it just kind of goes together, man. I mean, I just said, I bet we could climb this mountain. Now, it was nighttime too. It was nighttime. I just kind of seen the shadow of it, and I just looked at it and I was like, I bet we could.
Right.
But yeah, so we climbed up there. The first time we climbed up there, it was pretty tough, but we got there and we found this perfect spot to just build a shelter. So we built the shelter, right?
Yeah.
No or nothing. We built the shelter and then we went back down. So that was our recon mission. We went up there to see what we can accomplish. And then we built the shelter and then we went down next weekend. We came up. Nobody climbs the mountain
Yeah.
to go camping, especially.
Right.
So whatever we set up it's not going to go away. So it was set up, man. And the next weekend we went up there and slept. I just carried little foam mats, which is real painful as you get older. It's not a nice thing to lay on, but yeah. So we just hung out all night up there, man. And it was winter time, so it wasn't.
Jeez.
It was cold, man. I had two emergency blankets, and I said, let's figure out how we can use these, right?
hmm
And so we figured one of them should be a wind blockage thing, and like you just go with the process while you're out there, right? Yeah, I
Right.
mean you can't follow nature. You're not gonna win if you're like, oh, I'm not cold. You're cold, dude. You're
Right.
cold. Don't matter. So, but with that, I mean all the going up. We went up there a second time and set up camp because I carry all my heavy stuff up the first hike, like the axe and the shovel and all that, and we set up camp. We get the firewood and we set all that up. Climb back down. The next time up, I just bring food in the tent, so we're not dealing with the axe and all the heavy stuff.
Right.
And so we set up, and on the way back down, I was telling you earlier, I broke my ankle on the way back down. I was
Whew.
wearing the wrong boots, twisted it wrong, and I had to climb down the mountain, man. I mean, crawl down the mountain.
Yeah.
I lived crawl down the mountain. So, and when it happened, my son was like, "Oh shit!" Like he's never seen me in that agony, right?
Right.
It happened, and I was like, "Oh!" And I had my 80-pound pack on as
Yeah.
the heavy stuff up first.
hmm
I had that's kind of why, and then the wrong boots. I mean, if you don't make your stew right, man, it's not going to be good, right?
That's a good way to put it, man. So your
Hey,
stew, for those of us who didn't check out the last episode, he talked about how different experiences or outings, you got to look at it as a stew, right? So he needed the right boots, he needed the right type of weather, his axe, his heavy pack, his recon, before all those things mixed together to make the perfect stew, which is a good mountain climbing experience for him. And how old is your partner there, your son?
he's 10.
10
I say
years
I'm
old.
10, but he's 10, man.
Yeah.
He's grown. He's grown enough, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we started out with only one harness for me.
Uh-huh.
Here's my buddy right here, and we started out with one harness for me, and then we were doing it, and I wanted to see if he could feel comfortable enough to do it, because
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to even tie to something that feels sturdy, and then it's hard to just lean back over the edge, dude.
Yeah, I
I
bet.
don't know who you are. I mean, even the professionals at this point had that issue, I imagine, at the beginning, dude.
Yeah.
Like your adrenaline starts going, right? We talk about energy.
Yeah,
Dude,
man.
you talk about setting some stuff up. If you want to have some energy flowing in your body and systems that you don't even know about sometimes because we don't normally use them. So that goes with the military and war fighting too. We don't use that stuff, man. Like that was definitely a unique experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't use all those chemicals that can react in our bodies and stuff, right? And so leaning over the edge, holding on to a rope, that's pretty tough, man. And then because you're like, man, I hope my arm works, right? I hope it stops
Yeah,
me if
man.
I'm whatever, you have all kinds of little self doubt, and that stirs it all up, right?
Well,
Stirs all that.
I was thinking something about like a what do you call it? Like, what if you have a cramp or something like that? Like, I'm thinking about any and everything that can go wrong in that type of situation.
Yeah.
How do you put a cap on that? Control it enough to get something done.
So honestly, man, when it comes to thinking about it, it's way worse than actually doing it. Honestly,
Mm.
even when you're doing it, if you're thinking about it too damn much, it's too much,
Yeah.
right? So you're like, oh, I'm leaning over the edge of this rock. It's
Whew.
50-foot drop. Like,
Right.
if I hit the ground, I'm gonna splatter. Like if you're putting all that thought into it,
Yeah.
it builds up all kinds of energy inside you. And I say, and inside you, it's energy slash chemical, right? So
Okay.
it's like, you have to understand, like, when I say energy inside you, it means that there's certain chemicals like flowing. You get excited at a certain point, that's a certain chemical. You get sad, that's a certain chemical. You get, so all that is chemicals. But when you're doing something like that, it's just, and then if you're putting too much thought into it,
Right.
it kind of, you can talk yourself down. It's kind of like just do it and shut up in a sense. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard as hell to do though, man. When I first was rappelling, we didn't even have I said, let's go out to Jimenez and check these rocks out and see. And I only had a rope. I didn't have a harness.
Yeah.
And I wasn't exactly sure I knew what I was doing, but I knew if I wrapped the rope around me this way and I was holding on to it this way,
Wow.
it was gonna hold me, right? And then I went down. My son, he was like, "Dad, you were shaking," and I was like, it's tough, buddy.
Yeah, that's
Like,
tough, buddy.
I'm not gonna, but
Yeah.
no, it's that stuff. You just have to go through it. I think you only know what you experience in life, really.
Yeah.
You can, and then it's tough nowadays because some people think YouTube is experience. So like,
Yeah, like, man, I've watched all kinds of videos. I've seen a documentary. I know what it's like. Like, you have no idea
right,
until you're in it. Yeah.
right.
Well, it's,
And I feel that too. So even more. So I said we went up the mountain this time, and
mm,
we went out for like a month straight, just camping from Colorado all the way to Yellowstone,
oh
but
wow.
camping through the national forest this summer. And coming, and then you just see, man, you just see the minerals and all these rock. Like every national forest has rocks and stones, right? It's just like like mountains and lakes and rivers
Yeah.
and bears and oh my, like you need to enjoy it. But so when you're around it, you see what's in these rocks and stuff. So most of the rocks, I'm gonna send you pictures and stuff, even
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Jimenez. You just see all these veins of quartz, right? Literally veins of quartz through all this. So there's just all these minerals, obviously,
Mm.
in nature, but when it came together, so when the mountains came together and just boom, right? We can't even really understand this stuff. So when it just, all that pressure, and so we could climb up Sandia Mountain right here,
Hmm.
and we'll find fossils on the rocks, right? You'll find fossils on the top of the mountain of like little sea creatures, right?
Oh wow.
So hey, why, right?
Right.
At one point, we can't even really understand it, right? We see Sandia and we're like, yeah, that's the mountain, it's always been there, whatever.
Hmm.
No, at one point, all this was different. So when these lands came together, boom, all these mineral, so what creates these crystals that are behind me and stuff is it's just a perfect stew, right?
There's back to
You
that
have
stew.
the right
Yeah.
you have to have the right amount of certain things to make that amethyst.
Mm.
You have to have the right amount of things to make quartz.
Is that what that is
Pressure.
behind you, amethyst?
Yeah, and that's my little one right
Oh,
there.
okay. Yeah.
And
Tell us a little bit about that. Like, what makes you keep that? You still feeling the energy ping off of it?
so my bigger amethyst, so this is probably like what, maybe a foot. My bigger amethyst about 4 foot.
Mm.
I'm looking at it right now, I don't want to spit. But I seen that one in the store, right? I'm from Texas, so crystals aren't really the thing that I was brought up with, right?
Right.
And I seen that one in the store, and it just kept calling me. So I eventually got it, but that was before. So I went, man. That crystal has done a lot for me, man. The bigger one,
Mm.
and I do feel it. I feel it. So amethyst is called the I guess to be simple, because most of it is real complicated when you get into energies and why it has that energy and what it'll help you with, or
Hmm.
what your mood is at the time. All that stuff matters, right?
Right.
So but the amethyst is called the sober stone, right?
Silverstone?
Sobering
Oh,
stone.
sobering stone.
Sobering stone. So any kind of mindset that isn't like normal, right?
Hmm.
Amethyst will help. So if you have if you're mad, right?
Right.
If you're pissed off or whatever, and you go to amethyst, you put it on your head. You'll probably start chilling out after a while.
Wow.
And with that, so everything in our body is vibrating. All of our cells have a certain vibration to them, right?
Hmm.
The world, right? The thing we're standing on right now has a wobble to it, all right? But we don't feel it. So that it does a lot to everything in the world too, right? The mountains,
Hmm.
it does a lot to minerals. If you rub quartz together, it gives you piezoelectricity. That's what runs quartz watches, right?
Oh,
That's
wow.
how a quartz watch is if you squeeze a crystal so much, right? If you put pressure on
Uh
it,
huh.
it'll send out a certain amount of, and it's called piezoelectricity. So it'll send out electricity,
Piezoelectricity.
piezoelectricity. And I mean, with that, so right now the whole world's moving. We just don't feel it, right?
Right.
So everything in our body has a vibration as well.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about Tesla in the earlier one,
The
right?
Tesla. So it was a
Yeah,
Tesla.
Nikola Tesla.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Nikolov.
like the actual Tesla, not the car,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We're not talking the car didn't do this. But so Nikola Tesla, he invented this machine that you could, I guess you stood on it, from what I understand. You stood on it, and it it sent a certain frequency through your body. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what it was doing was kind of balancing out your cells' frequency, right? And
Wow.
like that gets you. So in our body, we like, say cancer, right? If we had some we all, everybody has cancer cells in them,
Mm-hmm.
right? No matter what. Now, what happens is our cancer cells kind of start vibrating at the wrong frequency, and they start building up because it's the wrong frequency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just gets bigger. So that means your frequency's off in your cells. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So, with that, if with that machine that Tesla built, you stand on it, and the idea behind it was it sent the frequency through your system that you needed, and it would reset your body.
How come that
Right.
hasn't, like, does that still exist? Or did he just get
I,
out
I
marketed?
have this book right now. I have Tesla's Book of Inventions. I looked through it. Okay,
Ooh. Is that what it's
it's
called?
not
Book of Inventions?
not in there. So there's motors in there. So I think if you take a certain motor that he's talking about
Uh-huh.
and hook it up to a certain machine, device, whatever you want to call it, that's what happened. Because in his book, in the book, uh, I don't know what it's called, but it's just Tesla's inventions.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all motors, though, you know. So his machines and stuff are left out, which are kind of, I mean, you might be able to look deeper and find it because I do know about it, right?
Uh-huh.
So, but as far as the book goes, I couldn't find it.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely get my producer on that right away because I definitely want to know about that. So you talk
What he
about
said, show you, I'll tell you a story. So he used it for like 4 years, you know, and he said, and his whole crew did really. And when he first invented it, this guy, like, he stood on it and it did the vibration through him. And he said for 2 days he had like uh, crazy diarrhea, right?
oh wow, yeah.
And and then after that he was good, like he was perfectly fine, you know, and he felt good. And then Tesla, after 4 years, he came up with the theory that because of their schedule and how Tesla had them working, right,
Mm.
they would go run and eat whatever, come back and work, go run and eat whatever, come back and work. So when that happened to the guy, it sent a vibration through his system that he needed. His stuff was out of whack, you know, and then the system worked real quick,
Yeah.
and then he felt better. You know what I mean?
Dude.
So I mean, it sounds simple, but at that time, it's pretty complicated. To us, it sounds, eh. I've
Almost
seen
like
a
science
machine.
fiction, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Back then, it's like, what the hell are you talking about,
But it
man?
makes
Like,
sense because I know whenever I'm on a new diet, like anytime you change your diet up as humans, you kind of go through that process where it just kind of tries to get rid of all the old stuff and get used to what you're putting the new, I guess, way of eating. And so right now I'm doing the
with
carnivore diet. I'm going through that right now. It's crazy.
well, with that too, it's that's vibration too, man. So when we eat meat as people, right?
Yeah.
When we eat meat, it's hard for our body to break it down,
Right.
right? Like our like the acid, everything that has to be released to break that food down is way worse than eating a salad on our system,
Mm-hmm.
right? So our energy, that changes our energy, man.
Yeah.
It really did, like, shifts it, you know, and it and then, I mean, if we could go in deeper with that, I want to stay out of that a little bit, but we could go in deeper with even how we get the meat, right?
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
man.
things stuff carries on, right?
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, and especially when it comes to energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? When it comes to energies, like I don't know, man.
No, I'm with you.
We're in a bad place when it comes to energies. So going up the mountain, going to Yellowstone and all that. with the mountains come together, all the minerals.
Hmm.
You just see veins of quartz. You see. So when me and my son were swimming in the rivers going up to Yellowstone, you see these flakes all in it, right?
Uh-huh.
And they're shimmering flakes, and that's all mica. So you have all these minerals all around us, you know.
What did you call it? Mica?
Mica, yeah, that's another crystal. But see, that conducts. So they found mica underneath the South American pyramids. They found mica under there, and it has a lot to do with the electricity and things like that. And they cannot explain why they found it underneath the pyramids. So
Mm.
think about that as people too. But yeah, so with all that energy coming together, the trees are green and beautiful. So we're ambitious, and we've created cities, and we love cities and all this,
Mm.
but we're the earth has a certain energy and frequency, and a city is just cement and pavement, you know. So we're kind of covering the
Yeah,
earth,
it's another
you know.
barrier.
We're making a we're making the frequency barrier. And so when you get out to nature and stuff like that, you should feel, and you might just feel, oh, I could breathe better. I feel relaxed. No, there's more to
Yeah.
that, but that's what you feel. You know, you just don't want to say, oh, there's more to it.
That's a strong
So there's
indication of some sort of change inside, right?
right, right, because we're connected to nature way more than most want to think, I guess,
Or
right?
have time to think. If you think about it, most people
Or
are, yeah, most
yeah,
people have
nowadays,
their heads down doing their 9 to 5 or working 10 hours a day to try to keep up with the inflation while the pay kind of stays the same. So it's a rat
right,
race out there, and we're basically eating each
right,
other instead of having a moment to just breathe. Like I said last time when you were on, we went, when I was in Australia, they talk about over there that they work to live, and here we live to work. And they make sure, I mean, from the government down, they make sure people have time to just stand still, breathe, have a little moment, go on an adventure, go on a holiday, as they call them, you know. So I think that's something we really should pay more attention to.
and yeah, I mean, absolutely, we should. With Australia, man. I mean, I want to go there just to go hang out with
It's
the
beautiful.
Aborigines, man.
Yeah.
I want to see their dances and stuff.
Mm.
I want to learn their stories because they don't tell them they dance and stuff. That's how they tell them. So unless you're there
Mm.
and they invited you in to see that, you won't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's important for us, you know.
Right.
And most people don't think like that, but that stuff's important for us, you know.
Mm.
I mean, we'll find out eventually one of these days when we're flying around our spaceship that we think we're gonna be flying around,
Yeah,
dude.
man.
We'll be like, ah, damn, we should have. I don't know, you know,
Stop
like
to smell the roses. Pay closer attention.
right? Yeah, because hell, okay, so going through Yellowstone, you know, you're driving like 45 the whole way,
Mm.
but it's like almost the whole edge of Wyoming, the whole state, right? Because we went up through the Tetons, we've seen the Grand Tetons and stuff,
What is that?
and then it's just these. Oh man, it's beautiful. I'll send you pictures of it, but it's just these two mountains that came together, and they're just. It's beautiful, dude. I can't even
What'd
explain
you
it,
call it?
man.
The Tetons?
Yeah, the Great Tetons or the Grand Tetons, the Grand Tetons. That's what it's called. So, but yeah, they're beautiful, man. And once you start getting into that area, so coming back from Yellowstone and feeling all that energy, as we were climbing up him as this time around,
Mm-hmm.
I was seeing things I probably wouldn't even have seen, man. Like I seen the veins throughout the rock of quartz. I'm gonna send you a lot of them. Right,
Yeah.
we've climbed this mountain a couple of times. I think 4 times. I've told you 4 times, and this time it was just like whoa, you know, like I had a whole different awakening because I was in nature in the middle of it. We camped, dude. We didn't go to a hotel and
Yeah.
work, or we
Yeah.
camped site like 3 days at a time, right? And stayed next to the river. We We bathed in the river, right? And I'm saying this river's 3 degrees. Okay, so that's how cool it was to bathe in it. All right.
Right.
Now, if I hadn't, uh, I told you before too about Wim Hof. If I
Yeah.
hadn't Wim Hof and started doing that stuff, there's no way in hell I would have been playing with my son in the 3 degrees river, man.
Oh, jeez. Ah, I could almost feel it, man. That's
He's
too
just in
cold.
it like, yeah, whatever, dude.
Yeah.
He's cool about it, but I jump. I mean, I feel it. You know, it activates all kinds of stuff in your body, but that's uh that's part of it, though, right? That's like it's way better than a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
right? Like jumping a cold river will wake you up way more than a cup of coffee would, man. And I'm
Yeah.
talking like everything, right?
Well, what's waking me up right now is that music. Can you hear that music? Is that you?
Oh,
It's like.
turn that
Hey,
off. My bad.
tell us. It's got some nice. That was a nice beat, man.
What are we watching? Are we done
Oh.
yet? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. See,
My,
now it's kind of quiet. It's almost too quiet, man.
yeah.
Yeah. So no. So going back to you said Win Hof. Get a little bit into that because as a Marine, y'all are taught so much on how to deal with high intense situations. Talk to me a little bit about your life after the military and how you came across the Win Hof thing.
So with Wim Hof, I don't know, man. When I broke my ankle, right? I just told you about
Yeah.
that. I broke my ankle and then I came home. Well, I'm used to being inside a lot because I don't like going out in the city, but I'll go out in the woods,
Mm-hmm.
right? But because my ankle was broken, I couldn't even go out in the woods. So I'm sitting here uh, getting depressed, working on depression hardcore. I'm like, man, this isn't working for me,
Right.
Nah. And then the swelling too. So the swelling in my ankle, I'm like, cold water, right? So cold water,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was like, it stings hardcore when I stick my foot in this cold ass bucket of water,
Yeah, man.
right? So then I started looking up stuff, and then I ran across Wim Hof. He's the Iceman, right? He
Oh,
holds
okay.
world records about being in the ice. He was underwater swimming so long he froze his retina because we don't have pain sensors in our eyes, so he didn't even know it froze until he was trying to find the hole and couldn't find it,
Froze
and the
his
diver
retina. That's nuts.
froze it, right? But he was swimming under. I mean, the ice was probably like 8 inches thick, and it's pretty intense. So look up Wim Hof and check out some of that stuff. But
Yeah.
so I found him because of the depression and all that stuff, and like I'm trying to like not be depressed, right?
Right.
And he said, cold water. He just gave me a different outlook on cold water.
Mm.
Like I looked at it like, I don't want to get in the cold shower. Fuck that,
Yeah, man.
right? I'm trying to relax when I get in the shower. I'm not trying to scream like a girl and like,
Yeah.
but when I found Wim Hof, he just explained it to where it was totally different, right? Our lymphatic system is a system that doesn't really work unless we work out or squeeze we have to tense ourselves up to squeeze our lymphatic system.
Mm.
And what's in there is waste and toxins. And if we're not squeezing that thing, and cold water does that. So when you jump in cold water, not only are every one of your sensors in your body turning on like instantly, you're like, what the,
Yeah, yeah. I felt it. I definitely felt that.
so you get that, and this it helps a lot. So we'll break this down a little bit deeper too. So when you jump into it and you feel all your sensory kick on,
Mm-hmm.
and then your brain's like, what's it telling you? Get out, right?
Yeah.
It's panic basically. It says get the fuck out of this place. I don't know what's going on. And if you fight that, you actually help make your fight or flight response stronger, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
These Navy SEALs, right? They're playing in the ocean, and that's why I couldn't be a Navy SEAL. I couldn't play in the ocean. It's just too cold, man.
Mm-hmm.
So they're playing in the cold water all the time. It's because that's the tough. It's turns everything on, right? You want to turn yourself on, go turn your cold shower on and jump in it real quick. You turn your whole body on.
Yeah.
Everything will turn on, So with that, the sensories that we have lost since we've been we're domesticated humans right now, okay? We were like, oh, dogs are domesticated and whatever. No, we're domesticated
Yeah.
right now, okay? Because if you think about it, we go into a building and it has AC, right?
Yeah.
In the summer, we go into a building, it has AC. And then we go into our car, it has AC. And then when we go from our house to our car, if it's not parked in the garage, and then if it is, sometimes it's still damn hot.
Yeah.
So when you go to your car, that's like the most temperature change your body's gonna
Right.
respond to, right?
Right.
And then we get to the building we're going to, and it's AC'd. So so from walking to the car to that building, that's the most heat we're gonna see too.
Right.
Right? And then we might go hang out at the park when it's cooled off or whatever. Anyway, so if we go with scientists and stuff, the cavemen, did they just magically have heaters and stuff when it was the ice age, or what's going on, man? We were more in tune with stuff around us. So with Wim Hof, they've been able to put a vest on them and cool them off and heat them up and cool them off and put them in a machine and kind of measure his stuff.
Yeah.
There's a part of the brain, it's called the reptilian part of our brain.
What's it called?
It's the reptilian part of our brain.
Oh, like reptile.
Yeah, and he actually activates that. Nobody can activate it like he does. So that's what's activating in his head when they put cold water on him in this bed. He's actually able to heat himself up, right? He stays at a constant 32 degrees no matter what, right? So when they were doing certain tests to him, the scientists actually had to keep adding ice to the thing he was sitting in because he was melting it too fast.
Jeez.
Yeah? And that's called Tumo meditation, right?
Tumo meditation.
Tumo meditation. So this is a whole nother thing when it comes to the monks and energy and stuff. This is inside of us. All right. This is still an energy thing when we talk about Wim Hof. But what he really taught me was, so when you hit cold water, what happens? Your body reacts, but the first thing you do is you take a deep breath.
Yeah.
In, right?
If you can manage that, there's sometimes I'm just stuck. Right? Like, I'm not breathing in or out. Yeah.
And then you exhale, but you hold it because you're like, oh, please. But what you really need to do is continue with that breathing in the same exact pattern. So but you don't force your exhale, right? You breathe in like you just hit the cold water.
Yeah.
But you don't exhale like that. You just, and then you, right? And then if you look into Tumo meditation, that's part of it. And then you can actually release DMT doing that because your body's, we're actually, we're not breathing right as a human being at all, man. We're not breathing right.
Now, what does that mean?
We're shorting ourselves basically. So we're breathing what we need to survive, right? But we're not breathing like we're supposed to take deeper breaths all the time. And that would consistently make all our bodies work, or so I say all our bodies, but so we have pumps in our system.
You say pumps?
And by breathing, it gets those pumps going. And that gets the energy going, and everything synchronizes. Like I'm saying, when you go out to nature too, like certain spots when it comes to humus and things like that, you'll see the different mineral structures and things out there. But what do we use in these computers and stuff? for energy and stuff. It's all quartz crystal,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Different minerals
And
like copper and yeah, all that stuff.
then copper and all that. It's all just it's in nature, right? So there's a certain energy that you get when you're standing out there next to and then the river's flowing too, right? So that's like a power current going all over all these uh, minerals, right? And it just creates a whole different atmosphere. So when you go
Mm.
out to nature and you take a deep breath, there's more going on than
I
you
feel like
just
I'm
feeling like
I
you.
feel like I'm breathing deeper myself now.
Well, so that's what you need, though. We really are we're shorting ourselves in a sense when it comes to that. And it's hard to continuously deep breathe, you know. So when we're under stress or somebody, say the kids have done something, and you're just like, well, see what you're doing? Yeah.
I'm about to take that with me, man. Uh-huh. So constantly, like I'm gonna have to stay on that constantly because I know I usually only do stuff like that when I feel upset, and I don't want that to be the only time because I do feel better. So I need to look at
Well,
that.
and then also, so when you're upset, like I was saying earlier, like when you're upset, there's certain chemicals going on in your body, right? Well, when you take a deep breath, all those your heart pumps faster, your blood's circulating quicker, so you're kind of flushing those chemicals faster, right? So I mean, to break it down in that kind of sense, right? That would be what you're doing, right? It's deeper. We can go deeper with that when it comes to the vibration and the hurts that your cells and that your all your cells are feeling.
Hmm.
It's way deeper, but to break it down, when you breathe, you're forcing things through your system, and when you're sad or upset or whatever,
Right.
mad, you have a certain chemical structure, and if you breathe through it, you'll push that chemical out, and then you'll be so your chemical gets flooded, right? Say you get upset real quick, and you get this flush of adrenaline or
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
right? Norepinephrine or serotonin, all those, right? All those chemicals. So you'll get a flush of those, and then you won't be able to think correctly. So
Mm.
then you do like you have like harsh reactions or whatever, right? But if you're able to take a couple breaths before you react, you're able to flush those chemicals out of your system.
Hmm. Sort of a preemptive
And then
strike.
you're able to think clear because those aren't fogging that like the amethyst. It's a sobering thing.
Hmm.
That's sobering to breathe in a sense, right?
Right. Well, that's an interesting thought because so you as a Marine, because I know you talked about being on the mountain and you know your son saying, "Dad, you were shaking," and you were like, "Well, yeah, that's a that's an appropriate response." Like maybe talk to
Yeah.
the people about how. I mean, we know that bravery, true bravery, can only exist you know when fear exists, right? So trying to how do you tame that? How do you kind of use that energy for something productive?
In combat, right?
Yeah.
You just in a certain situation, the chemicals, right,
Hmm.
will be different in your system, and you react more appropriately in a sense,
Hmm.
right? Like, let's say in Iraq, we have to we have to go on a patrol or whatever, right?
Hmm.
So in your head, you're like, okay, you're going on a patrol, and at first you go group up and you talk about the strategy and what you're going to work on while you're out there, what you're going to do while you're out there, what you're going to look for, what we're going to work as a team, right? But in your head, you're like, okay, and all that stuff works. It comes together.
Mm.
It's good to have a plan, right? In a sense. And then sometimes it's cooler to not have a plan, right? Because I didn't have a plan when we went up through Yellowstone, and it was tough, right? And like you said, you don't really have something without something else happening. So you don't
Right.
have, you know, the fear happens and then you have all these other chemical reactions. Well, when you don't know, that kind of reaction happens too. But as soon as you figure it out, you know, that gives you something as a person, dude. That gives you the confidence that you're like, all right, so I went through that, but it wasn't as bad. So we went and talked about stuff at the beginning, and then we went on patrol. But in your head, so you talked about it. You said this is what we're gonna do, and then you went out, right?
Mm.
And when you're out there, you're like, okay, am I gonna run across an ID? Is this gonna happen? Is that gonna happen? You're defeating yourself almost,
Oh, okay.
right? You're breaking yourself down for sure, but you're defeating yourself with those thoughts like, oh, there an IED, I'm gonna get blown up, whatever, you know, all that stuff. I was shot, all that, and so you're kind of talking yourself down, defeating yourself, because when it comes to it, I mean, the chemicals, you don't know about the chemicals your body can release, man.
Mm.
So even going through that, there's chemicals going, right? So there's a large amount of chemicals that are going just from going through that, thinking, oh shoot, I'm gonna hit an IED, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And then you come back here and those those chemical pathways are open, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're open way more than what you have to deal with anything here. So when you deal with something here and it's kind of stressful, the pathways open way too much, right?
Oh. So,
So kind of stressful releases too much chemical in your system.
mm-hmm.
Then you kind of freak out more than what you need to, right? Or what you normally should freak out about. You freak out more,
So
right?
just so make sure I'm following this path right. If you don't think about it, your body has a chance to naturally, organically react to a stressor, right?
Right,
Versus if you
right,
start thinking about it, your body is already opening up. So when it really hits the fan and things are really happening, then once that real life situation, fluctuation of chemicals happens, it's like a floodgate.
right, right.
Gotcha.
Well, and then okay, so and then with that too, when I first went into Iraq,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we went under a lot of overpass. So we got off our ships and went into Kuwait, and then we drove from Kuwait into the spot in Iraq. So we had our own gear, which was cool. We didn't have that the second time I went. But having your own gear is good because you know what you're dealing with, right? But so, you know, I think I was probably 18.
Mm-hmm.
And we're driving under all, or maybe 19, but we're driving under all these overpasses. And what we're taught before that was, hey, these guys are going on these overpasses and dropping grenades down into the trucks because we have holes for the gunner on every truck.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably went under like 35 overpasses, dude.
Oh
But
man.
every one was the same, you know, it was the same holy shit
Right. You
that I had.
just
You know what
right.
I mean? Like, fuck, you know. And that gets tiring too, you know. That'll wear on you after a while. But yeah, especially after 32 of those bitches.
Yeah.
You know, so it just depends. So based on the fact that I wasn't used to, I just came out of high school, even being trained as a Marine. All right, I went through some chemical reactions in boot camp and stuff that I wouldn't normally go through in civilian life. But to do that, it opened up those pathways even more, is what I mean. So in boot
Hmm.
camp, like in high school, right?
Right.
In high school, my pathways were a certain extent open, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go through boot camp and your chemicals release more, certain chemicals get released more and your pathways open up a little more. And then you go through something like Iraq and war and stuff, and then your pathways are just, you know, intensified big time. So then you
Right.
come back to where your pathways are supposed to be just normal in high school or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and they're not, and something happens, and then you just like the little bit of chemical that's supposed to happen like it did in high school
Right.
is a flood, right? It's
Okay.
just a flood.
Now, so I got a question about that. You think that's what's happening with these police officers? Because I have some limited
Yeah.
training, limited military training. Like I was never in any
No,
branch.
no, it is. They
Yeah.
are. It is. It definitely is. So with the police officers, and I support them, man.
Hmm.
So with the but with that said, dude, all right, I support them fully, but at the same time, like they, so they're uh, desensitized, right?
Yeah.
They're desensitized from what they see on a daily compared to what we see. We go to Walmart, we get our groceries, we
Right.
come home to work, come home. Work means like typing on a computer or dealing with a rowdy customer or whatever, right?
Hmm.
Cop has to deal with the fucking asshole souped up on
Yeah.
drugs running around with guns or something,
Hmm.
right? So in his mind, when it comes to, so he's souped up, right?
Yeah.
That's what. So with the chemicals, it is. It's basically exactly the same thing, man.
Yeah.
So that they're they're in that space, in that reality. Our reality is different, right?
Right.
Their reality is I'm gonna go to work and I'm gonna fuck up. I'm gonna be fucking with this dude that has been doing dope all
Hmm.
day and he's whatever, right?
Right.
Robbing the store. So a cop's mentality is way different, right?
Hmm.
It doesn't justify some of the shit we've seen lately, but a cop's mentality is way different. So I don't know, their chemical reaction is different,
Well, I think
right?
it should be
That's
different, but you also have this system set up. We talked about systems, right? Their soup
right,
just isn't right. The very small amount of training, just to give you an idea of what I came across, is there's a thing in your brain that they've calculated. Scientists actually have calculated this, that it takes so many seconds, maybe it's like 2 point something, for your brain to tell your hand to stop doing something. So
okay,
how they were trained, I remember going through training and I was freaking out, dude, myself. Like everybody's got a gun, everybody's out to kill me, everybody's on drugs, right? I felt that
yeah,
fear, and that just
right,
like, okay, we did some simulations, dude, and literally we walk up and it's like, hey, and before I could get another word out, a dude pops out the trunk and boom, I see my partner on the simulation get blown away. And then I have to quickly make a decision who I'm going after, how fast, and
right,
that's before I even get to the vehicle. So that's if this is the type
right.
of training that they're going through, and then they come into some situations, then they're already pumped up, or like you said,
Right,
yeah, I can see that
right.
happening.
So the training too, like
Yeah.
like I said, so from high school, right, my pathways were certain things.
Hmm.
So my training was boot camp,
Right.
right? And then we constantly train as a Marine, but boot camp was like the main, like a precursor to my insanity, right?
Right.
So with that, my system opened up more, right? So with police training,
Hmm.
they're trained to react.
Yeah.
It sucks, right?
Right.
To be a cop and then go through it and react too damn quick,
Right.
right? Honestly, with meditation, dude. All right,
Yeah.
let me throw this in. I'm gonna throw this plug in real quick. With meditation, this is what I always say with meditation. It gives me that second, like it gives me the time to think before I react. So what you're saying with the trigger, or your time for your brain to tell your body not to shoot or
Hmm.
whatever, meditation gives you more of that, right? And I've know that. That's why I've always said that, even from the beginning of my
Yeah.
meditation. That's why I even continued it, because I'm like, shit, I'm not getting like I'll react the same, but I'm not reacting as fast, so it kind of calms me down
Yeah.
before I do, right? I'm not reacting as fast. So, but with cops, it's real tough because you would have to like balance their 12-hour day with the whole 12-hour shift off. You'd have to give them 12 hours on of all the
Right.
bullshit and then give them 12 hours off to sleep. And then the next day, you'd have to do 12 hours on of like sympathy training. right? Or
Yeah, to
like,
kind of balance
you know
it,
what I mean?
counterbalance.
To balance
Yeah.
it, right? Because you have to remember you're human, but when you deal with assholes all day that are drugged up and stuff, it's real tough
Yeah.
to just like I was saying with the breathing. They're shorting themselves on the breath.
What do you
Cops
think
are.
about, because okay, so how long was your training again? Your basic training?
But basic training's 13 weeks.
13 weeks. And then after that you had to
Right.
do what?
And well, after the 13 weeks, then you have combat training, and that's another month,
Right.
right? So 13. And then so that's 17 weeks, and then you got another maybe 6 months of learning your profession, right?
Right.
So after all that, but you're consistently working on being a Marine,
Right.
right? So you're consistently kicking doors in and doing live fire and knowing that the enemy's gonna
Yeah.
kill you and you better fucking kill him first, right?
So
So like
building an experience, right?
consistent. Yeah, it's consistent. So with the like I said, with the policemen, that's how it would have to be. They'd have to go out and actually work one day and then have a whole day off, or maybe even just like work 1 week and then have a whole week off on like uh debriefing kind of
Yes.
thing, you know, like
Yeah.
you got to debrief and then you have to resensitize yourself,
Yeah.
right? You have to remember you're a
What
human,
about
you know.
mandatory meditations and breathing exercises, right?
Hey, dude, I think schools need
Yeah,
that, man. If
everywhere.
schools, I don't even think I know for a
Dude,
fact.
just like
Okay,
you were
I
talking,
know for a
just
fact
like you were talking
they
about
need that.
I'm gonna say gumbo because I'm hungry now because we've been talking about soup. But I'm gonna switch it up to gumbo. To make you a good
All right,
roux, I mean, to make a good gumbo, you need first a good roux, a good foundation, and that's not what these cops
right.
have, man. If you think about like a nurse or a doctor or professions like that, where they have to work long hours to make sure they don't make mistakes, right? They make sure they may
Right.
work 6 days in a row with crazy hours, but you're gonna get 4 to 5 days off as well in order to decompress, so you're not making those big mistakes. Because I want to say, by and large, I think police are doing their job, but when you have these situations happen, the main thing that people are kind of missing is that, like, yeah, I understand it's a tough job. Yeah, I understand this time didn't have a weapon, but there was 100 other situations where the person did. This time he wasn't on drugs, but there were 100 times, 100 situations where it did
No,
happen.
like I just this case might have been, oh well, he wasn't on drugs, but the last 300 I've
Right.
done, the person's
But
drugs, you
here's the
know. So
difference. Here's the difference.
you can't do that unless you undo it. So like what
Yeah.
that's what
But I think
so
here's the difference with that. What's happening is, if a doctor has been overworked or a truck driver has logged more hours than he's supposed to, they get licenses taken away. Some of them get jail
you get fined.
time. Like, there are consequences.
Dude, okay. So, but
Yeah.
okay. So with that, with us as a society,
Right.
right? We're supposed to be that we could come together and be a society. That's what makes us human. That
Yeah.
that's what we need to be proud of, right?
Right.
And with that, the cops it's kind of so it goes back far, right? It goes back way further, and it is ingrained in some of
Right.
them. Because you can't. Okay, so even in the Marine Corps, we didn't have awesome Marines all over the place.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
you're always going to have a couple turds. Okay,
Absolutely.
so even in the Corps, you're going to have a couple turds. All
Uh-huh.
right, and there's going to be the good ones too. But so what I've seen so far with this craziness that's going on recently is that unions that protect police officers,
Yes.
they push it too much,
Yeah.
dude. So they actually protect a bad police officer. He gets away with it. That reinforces that. Like if you don't smack your kid for doing
Yeah.
something, if you don't smack your man for something, that's reinforcing the fact,
Right.
right? He's gonna do it again, and then he might the next time he does it, it might be more
Egregious.
pro
profound.
or more
Yeah.
ridiculous, more, So with the cop, if they're, and then so we get into policies and stuff, right?
Oh, systemic
So
stuff, right?
cops, well, we have to go through certain, and then because we're America, right? We go through elections a lot.
Mm.
So we don't have consistent leadership. We never have consistent leadership. Shit's always changing, right? Cops can do this one month, and then the next month another leader's there, and they can't do it. So they're kind of like, that makes them question what the hell they're supposed to be doing. You know what I
Right.
mean? You can't go into certain situations and question what the hell you're supposed to be
Hmm.
doing, and then you're worried about your life at the same time. You can't do
Right.
that. So when it comes to that, like policy changes and then things get
Hmm.
worse for the police, or the policy gets weirder for the police and better for the criminals, and like
Oh man.
the world's crazy right
Well, I
now,
was a
man.
CEO to
So
share a quick story with you. I was a CEO, and one of the things they told us is we were required by law to go into a situation at the level of the assailant or the person who's starting whatever issue. So
right,
that's a tricky thing because they know the law and they're protected more than we are as the correction officers,
right,
right? So if a guy were
right.
to punch, just to give you a scenario, if one of the prisoners punched me in the face and then immediately turned their back and put their hands up, I have to calm myself down like that, place them under, detain them, make sure they can't harm me or themselves or
Right,
anyone else. And
right.
but I can't react to that punch or that spit in the face.
Where's that? That's where that meditation
Man,
comes in,
need it,
man.
need it. Yeah.
I see what somebody hits me in the face. I'm
I'm
not
gonna
going to turn
right.
and
My first reaction is,
slap
oh, I
them.
gotta hit
But
him back because what else is he gonna do?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
hey, but that's human too, though.
yeah.
So here's the thing with this craziness. Like the police are put on, and then as a CO and all the in the correctional side of it too, everybody's put on like a higher pedestal than the actual offenders and
Mm,
stuff. Like obviously
mm-hmm.
though, right? That's
Right.
obvious. But the pedestal is way too damn high, dude.
For
Like
anybody.
it's just way too high,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the an offender in certain places can get away with assaulting a cop, and then like in New York recently, they poured buckets of water or whatever. Not recently, that was a little while back before the
Mm-hmm.
virus, but they were pouring buckets of water on the police officers in New York. In my head, I'm from Texas,
Yeah.
man. If I poured a bucket of water on the cop,
Oh,
in my head, I know he's gonna fucking shoot
yeah,
me, so I wouldn't do
yeah.
it, dude. Why the fuck? I don't understand it, dude. So I mean, I get that they're human too, but look at this is how I look at police. Okay, I don't think they're a threat or anything, but I look at them like this. That's a human being with a
Mm-hmm.
weapon, okay? And you are not. You are not. I mean, unless you have a weapon,
Right.
but you are not. So it's probably better just to go with the flow in the
Yeah.
situation, right? When it comes to that, because they have a
Mm-hmm.
weapon and you do not. Okay, so that's all
I
that
teach
means.
my kids
But
the same thing, bro, because you really do gotta take that into account. Because I've been in some situations where I've been in the car getting pulled over, and then people are like, "Why are they pulling you over?" Oh, it's just because of this, that, and the third. It's like, hey, I need you to calm down.
like,
I
hold
don't care if
on,
it's
you
right or
sure?
right. Yeah, let's get through this. Make sure you pay attention to badge numbers and names, and we'll figure this stuff out. But I like to walk away from this, man.
No,
Yeah,
yeah, right.
but that's
But
us.
that's
But
the
that's
biggest.
us too in our experiences. You got to think if you're the officer and you're trained to deal with situations, and think about how much it's been pumped into our heads through the media of how bad cops are. If you're getting pulled over, you're getting
Right,
shot and killed as a black person, right? So
right.
once those channels are
Yeah,
open, if I go by your energy thing there, once those channels are already open, you're already everything is flooding, but you're
right.
also
Your
but you're
spinal
also
jumping.
untrained. The two
Right,
guys in Georgia who weren't, didn't have any weapons, weren't committing any crimes at the time, they're going crazy too and thinking like, man, is this it? And of course, fight or flight kicks in, but that's not taken into account, right? I remember back in the day, a cop would just take you down or, throw hands if they had to. But now it's
Right,
like shoot
right.
first because
That's
man, I don't know what he got. Yeah.
and with okay, so with the, and then I think what is that?
Was that your
Okay,
producer?
with that, yeah, my producer, he's like, hey, uh, with that also, man, it's kind of like so war kicks off a bunch of nasty
Oh
shit,
yeah.
right? So, but it also speeds up our process because here's why. All right, I was talking about this before. War speeds up our process because we have no other choice but to advance during that
Mm-hmm.
time, right? If we're not better than the enemy, we're gonna die. So if we don't advance during war, we're not doing the right
Mm-hmm.
thing in a sense, right? We're not gonna be good. So with that, when the war hit, I remember when the planes flew into the building,
Mm-hmm.
dude. Like my body, like I remember the person telling me. I think I told you before. Person telling me all this stuff, but that was like the country felt
Mm-hmm.
that. Everybody felt that. Right? We're like, fuck you, idiots. Y'all are gonna come over here and pretend like you're gonna get away with murdering all those people in the building. I seen people jumping out the fucking
Yeah,
window
man.
to not burn to
Right.
death. They were gonna die from the fall, but they weren't gonna burn to death. That's
Yeah.
crazy, dude. So with that, that energy right there, people go to war, they're like, yeah, we're fucking gonna go kill the bad guy.
Already
Yeah,
open, already
yeah.
up here, right?
Right, right. You were gonna go kill the bad guy, right? That was a couple years back. And then I mean, but we're still going through it. And then now, I mean, people joining the police force that didn't join the military are kind of
Oh.
yeah, that guy. Yeah, I'm gonna fucking get my stripes or
Yeah.
whatever, dude. You don't. I see
Yeah.
that. I see it, dude.
So
I don't know if everybody else should see it too, but at the same time, not all cops are like that.
right.
But I feel there are some people that just have that mentality that, like, you know, at this point in my life, let me just tell you this. For me, sometimes I wish a motherfucker would, dude. Okay,
Jeez.
so with the cop,
Yeah.
with the cop, they might have that going in their
Yeah.
head, right? We can't say that they don't. Now that goes into police
Mm.
vetting and making sure that. But then even if a police officer gets into it, like let's make sure he doesn't corrupt himself.
Right.
Let's pay him enough money to take
Oh
care of him so
man.
he doesn't corrupt himself. And then because when he gets corrupted, shit spreads if nobody smacks him,
Right.
right? He's gonna corrupt the new guy. He's gonna be like, oh, I can make $10,000 more every 3 months or whatever,
Yeah.
and that's how that flows.
More incentive
So it is
bonuses, right?
a setting process, and with the police, I think we really need to like they have to have an evaluation like every 6 months to be
Mm.
fair. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? If they're not gonna like have a week on of hardcore police duty and then a week of hardcore
Mm.
therapy, they need to have a 6 month evaluation to make sure the motherfucker is still like sound
I like
in
that,
mind.
man.
You know what I mean?
Well, so it comes back to it's not just the police officers, it's not just the criminals, it's the world in
It's
general. We're getting
leadership.
further and further away from our roots, right? Well, so
Oh well, yeah, okay, yeah. When it comes to
mhm,
that, so cities right now, you okay? We'll go with this thing.
yeah,
When it comes to energies and stuff, you see these cities erupting right
mhm,
now, right? All these cities are erupting, and in my head, I'm like, man, I don't understand the people's train of thought on this situation, on some of the stuff that they're erupting, and they're continuous. I don't understand the train of thought, but when it comes to the world's energy, that's what's really happening. Is they're not getting so, like I said, our cells vibrate at a certain frequency,
mhm,
right? And if that frequency gets messed up, then we're right in for stupid shit
right,
all of a sudden,
right,
right? So when it comes to cities, I mean, there's pavement, all over the ground, right? You can go to a park and it's like open earth, right? You can lay on the grass and roll around, but you don't get the
Same connection.
what you need. You don't get it. You don't get that what you need, man.
Yeah.
When it comes to Jimenez and all the mountains and even any national park or any forest or anything,
Yeah.
think about this, man. The trees are just sitting there. They started as a seed. All they needed was water and the sun
Mm.
for them to grow, right? And they're creating in that, so it's creating energy. Everything creates
Yeah.
energy, right? The plants around us, like if we're bummed, our plants will be sick, dude.
Yeah.
If we're that connected to our plants will be sick if we're not good. And I've seen it because I planted plants one summer,
Hmm.
first time ever, dude. And I was glad about it and I was loving it and I was excited about doing it. And I had good plants. Next summer, kind of a reversal. I planted them because it was kind of a to do it thing. I'm going to go ahead and do it and continue it. But I didn't feel the same and the plants didn't grow at all, dude.
Wow.
They just didn't grow
Yeah.
at
Have you
all.
heard about that study? That I think it was IKEA or somebody did this experiment where they had students record compliments on one tape and negative remarks on another, and they put them inside these plants that are next to each other, right? So getting the same amount of water, nutrients, sunlight, everything. The only difference is
Yeah,
one was hearing positive remarks and the other one was hearing
right,
negative remarks. And dude, I kid you
right.
not, the negative one just shrunk up and shriveled up and died. The other one like almost exceeded the actual container it was in because it was getting all those
You're
compliments.
like, that miracle grow, right?
Man,
You're like,
that's
miracle grow,
nuts.
right?
Yeah.
Well, it
So if
is.
that's true in plants,
So
how true is that in society? In people.
now it's even bigger in us than we know. Than
Mm-hmm.
we even talk about, dude. So what you're talking that study's I've never heard of that one. That
Yeah,
one's
yeah,
good.
yeah. I'll put a link in there.
There's a rice study also, and well, it's the same thing. So they put rice in beakers, right? And they gave negative remarks and or negative energy and positive. I love you. I
Yeah,
hate you,
yeah,
right? The I hate you rice died. The I love you rice lasted way longer. You know what
yeah.
I mean? So with that, we haven't. So when people say aura,
Mm-hmm.
it's real because we're releasing energy from us all the
Yeah.
time, right? Okay, think of this. So when you're driving across a hot ass road and it's open country and you see the mirage of the heat coming off the road or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and that's the world's aura, dude. Okay,
Jeez,
that
I never
shit's
thought
coming
about that.
up. It's constant. It's constant. We just see it at that moment. We're like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like oh, it must
No,
be hot outside. Yeah.
yeah, right. Oh, is that a real lake or is it
Oh
not?
my
No,
god.
no, that it's consistent because just because it's hitting the road and bouncing, the sun's always hitting the planet, right? Consistently hitting
Mm-hmm.
the planet. It's always coming back up. So it's always hitting the core. It's coming back up. They found this big uh, cavern in Mexico that had selenite
Mm.
crystals, and these guys are standing on these crystals, and they're huge. You can't even imagine a crystal being
What's it
that
called?
huge, right? But
Selenite?
yeah, selenite, and probably look up selenite caves in Mexico. But they're these little dude. It's just a little bitty guy standing on this huge crystal, man, and it's in the belly of the earth in a
Mm.
sense, right? So the earth has these crystals all over. They have energy all over. The pyramids, right? They're on the ley lines of the earth.
Mm.
Ley lines are where energy flows for the earth. So we have our chakras in our body,
Right.
right? The ley lines are the chakras for the earth. Okay, and all the pyramids are set up to. So this is how ignorant we are as people. Okay, we say, oh, the earth when the Egyptians were building the pyramids, the earth wasn't connected. Nobody knew anything,
Mm.
right? No, the Egyptians didn't build the pyramid. But when the pyramids were built all over the world, They were built for a reason, and they were connected, right? And it's because of energy sources on the
Mm-hmm.
planet and in us. So in India, a temple, an ancient temple in India, which I would suggest everybody go to India, all
Yeah.
right, and check temples out because they're amazing. They have a temple that's carved straight into the mountain, okay, and it's carved out of the rock that was in the. I mean, it's a beautiful temple, but they're not temples to go worship. They're temples to go to and feel the energy,
Mm.
and you feel the energy from that spot. So they built temples in certain points, right, to feel the energy. Because in India, there are certain temples that females aren't supposed to go to because it'll actually hurt their inside, like their uh, reproductive
Mm.
system and everything, mess it up.
Wow.
So they're supposed to go into it, and that's because of the vibration. So that goes back to Tesla and this machine he made with the vibrations,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the frequency that goes through your body. So you go to an Indian temple, there's a certain frequency going through your body. You go to the pyramid, there's a certain frequency going to be going through your body while you're there. Is it rejuvenating your cells? Hell, we don't know because we're not testing that out. I'm not saying we're not smart enough to test it out. We're just not doing
Right.
it, right? Where are we at? You know, we need to build more skyscrapers, or do we need to learn what the hell's going on for real?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Well, you only got a
so
you
with
got a
that,
small percentage of people who are messing up. Like, so if we're building a gumbo, we got the root, which is the earth. Like, we got a good, strong, sturdy foundation that gives us everything we need. Right? Let's set what we want aside for a minute, but it gives us everything we need, we'll ever need. But then you got this stuff at the very tip top of the gumbo kind of floating around in it. Is it a bug? Is it a fly? There are too many people, too much of a small group of people who are making all the major decisions. Like back to what we were talking about policing, all those decisions come from the top. How they do things and how big they're going to allow the union to be, those decisions come from the
look,
top. Yeah.
right. So with that said, dude, as a police officer, you join the police force to be a good person to help other people out, right? I wanted to be a police officer. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to join. And other people might join for other shit,
Yeah.
but
No, I was with
as,
you.
as
I was close myself, man. Yeah.
right, so you want to join and you want to help others out and you want to be able to, do your job
Mm-hmm.
and protect people from the bad people,
Right.
right? Now, you don't really at that time when you're joining and you're going through the boot camp, you don't think about politics in it.
No.
But then you get to your force, say you're Albuquerque PD, and then you go to Albuquerque all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden. You don't think about the mayor's decision on what you're doing. You think about, oh, this is the law. This is what I should do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, that's not how it works in
Right.
reality. It should because that's the law and that's how you should
Mm-hmm.
operate. But that's not how it works. It works like, oh, I should do this, but the politics tell me that it's not going to help, and I should just move on from this
Right.
situation. And then that's what happens,
Well, what I've
dude.
noticed in the small amount of training I got was the brainwashing that goes on, right? And it does now.
Oh,
It's very important. If anybody who's been in the military or on an athletic team, it's very important to build cohesion for the man next to you, right? But that's kind of how
right.
they do it. They build it around like if you don't do things a certain way, the guy next to you is gonna get hurt, or maybe some innocent civilian or yourself.
And see, and that's military training.
Yeah,
So for me, protect and serve means a little bit different
yeah,
than that. I mean, it means the same because you still got to worry about your partner all the
right,
time, but it shouldn't be as intense as like
yeah,
because when you said that, I'm like, fuck, man, that's how I was
yeah,
trained,
man.
right? Like my buddy is he's in, I mean, I'm important too, but my buddy's important. Like you never leave somebody
Right.
behind and shit. So you're always pushing forward, you're always listening to your commands, but like you're still worried about the man to the left and the right of you. You know what I mean? So sometimes it has to be trained properly, right? Definitely, because what happened, man. I don't want to bring up names because I don't know.
I hear you.
Really happened, all right, with this fucked up shit. I don't even know what city it was in, but with the cop that kneeled on dude's neck, man.
Oh yeah. George Floyd and all that stuff.
Right? And dude, the other officer should have knocked that motherfucker the fuck out, basically, right? Don't stand next to somebody else that's killing somebody else, okay? But at some point, the unions, all right, so it goes deeper. It's not the police, man. So the unions would have been like, oh, you hit our union guy, we're going to fucking go after you, whatever, you know? I don't know if that's for real what happens, but that's in the real world, the unions have a lot to do with this stuff.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So people are going after the police, but it's the unions because the unions protect the police. But the unions do it. The unions aren't good.
People, so that's the thing, right?
The unions protect bad police. They protect good police.
They're protecting the brand. Right. It's almost like they're protecting the brand.
Exactly.
Right? Because what they should be doing is also, just like you said, we have cancerous cells. Like, we got to do some things within our body to keep those cells in check. But the union is supposed to be getting rid of the cancerous cells.
What the hell? It's not. Because, like you said, okay, so you explained it better than I did. It is. They're taking the brand of police instead of like the brand of a good union. They're just taking the brand of, oh, we're the police department. We're working for the police department. So if a police officer shoots somebody, they know it's wrong.
It's us versus them.
He turned his shit off or whatever. And then it's the whole union coming after, the prosecutor. Right. And then the prosecutor's like, well, goddamn, I have a case, but you fuckers blocking it. You know what I mean? The unions need to pull their head out of their ass and actually be a productive member of society. Right? Like, they need to really realize that we can back these good cops.
That's it. I think all of us should. I think the media should be having on the loop good cops doing good cop work. I think you should definitely really sell that versus like every time one thing happens here, there, or anywhere, it's been so amplified.
That's the only way that a certain group can benefit from it, right? Is if you blow up a bad situation, because we never hear about the police are doing awesome and all that, but if a police officer, and I'm saying, man, that shit with Eric Garner, and I hope I'm getting his name right.
George Floyd, I believe.
George Floyd. Who's Eric Gardner? Oh, Eric Gardner.
Cigarette guy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, man, my bad. So so both of them. Man.
Yeah.
But honestly, the unions need to fucking step back a bit, right? And quit protecting bad cops. Because that's what's happening. They're protecting the brand, like you said. And the brand holds bad shit.
Yeah.
Right? You don't get rid of
like anything else, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, there's no good guys in the Marine Corps too. There's a bunch of shitbags. That's what we call it, shitbags.
Right.
Okay? We can't. That's our phrase. So there's shitbags in the police force, and there's shitbags in society. There are people that rob banks and steal shit.
Right.
That's a human thing, I think. Right? That's like everybody's gonna be an asshole if it comes down to being greedy or whatever in a sense.
Well, how's the saying go? Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
I've never heard of it, but yeah.
So just you give someone too much of their version of absolute power, right? Like if you give some bad dude from society a badge and a gun, then it's not going to turn out well, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
and it won't. And especially if they have a back and they're like, I'm going to join the union, and they have a backing of, because a union, you have to break down what a union really is, dude. A union is they get
Mm-hmm.
donations, right? So they have
Mm-hmm.
money, and then they have lawyers, a union lawyer. So when a cop does something fucked up, the union comes in. If it's a fucked up situation, they should say, "We won't. I don't care that you're part of the union. You shouldn't have fucking
Right.
done that, dude." That's what they need to do. But what they really do is, "Oh well, we got you, dude. Don't worry
Let's
about it."
go deeper.
You know
Let's
what
go
I
a little
mean?
bit deeper though. That happens most of the time because there's such a shortage of good officers out there that you can't. These guys are floating around like you do something, slap on the wrist, go
Yeah,
to
right.
another department,
Yeah.
right?
There's only a certain amount of good people, man.
That's what it
Like,
comes down to.
I can argue with
Yeah.
that. There
So
really
somebody
is.
messing
You
up
know, I
our
mean,
gumbo.
right? Goddamn, throwing some bullshit
Yeah,
in
man.
there.
But yeah. So how do we fix the gumbo? Like, is it because I know it's not one thing. Because I have got to put in this link. There's a site out there. If we want to stay with this policing thing, there have been
Yeah,
several police stations around the country who've implemented one to two, if not a significant amount of changes to their policing structure, and they've seen a
right.
drop in this type of situation, right? Discrimination or, all sorts of things. And I really wish we could. It's hard to take race out of it because if I'm a black person, when I see another black person go through something, I'm going to equate it to me. Same thing with you and everybody else on the planet. But what's happening with some of these cases, man, like there was a white couple that were in an apartment building. The police went to the wrong house. And so the guy had some trouble. Talk about that energy and that gumbo, right? He'd had some trouble
Yeah,
weeks before. These guys are responding
yeah,
to a domestic dispute, a possible domestic dispute. They're at the wrong
right.
place. And so because of that trouble that the guy who was staying at the apartment had, he flings the door open and is like, "What's up?" And this is a white dude, and he's
Yeah,
got a gun in his hand. He never lifts it or anything. And literally, both of the officers already had their guns out, and they're yelling "gun." And the guy had enough time, I kid you not, to back into the apartment, raise his non-weapon hand, and take a knee and say "whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa," while always keeping the gun pointed down. And that one of the officers just unloaded on him right there at point blank range. You know,
we, and so with that, yeah,
yeah. And that was a white couple. This
that
is a
goes
pretty blonde
to,
girl with her boyfriend, and they were just playing some. I think she said like Nintendo or whatever it was, playing some Smash Brothers, and like it
well,
was just a bad situation.
with that, you don't ever. Why the fuck would you? He's a dumbass. Okay, I don't give a fuck what color you
Mm.
are. If a police officer's knocking on your door, don't answer
Oh,
the
that was
shit
another
with the gun.
thing. It wasn't like a police open the door, right? It was just like a large banging. Now remember, she had
Okay,
said,
so that's what the police fucked up.
"Yeah,
So you need to send video to the girlfriend because they're gonna sue the
yeah."
police department because when you knock on the door,
Mm.
you're supposed to knock and announce.
Knock and
That's what the
announce.
law's
And so
called.
here's the
Knock and
thing.
announce.
He had that situation happen weeks before where he got afraid enough, got himself trained, got himself a weapon. Like, just think about that. If he doesn't have an incident weeks before, this dude is still alive, right? And it's a simple do. If they say police, maybe it's like, "Oh, shoot, the police. Let me put my gun away." Like, "Hey, bro, what's happening?" It's like, "Oh, they could have probably talked that out and realized, oh, wait, we're at the wrong place. Sorry for the inconvenience." It's just so crazy how
Right.
different. But so that gets put in the media. But what doesn't get put in the media is all these different places that are implementing these different rule changes and actually causing these situations to kind of dissipate. So it's almost like it's proof that it can work and can be fixed, but we're too busy looking at the other stuff and hyping it, having it on replay on CNN and Fox.
Right. Hey, this is the problem,
Yeah.
and we don't know what to do to fix it. Or they're saying, hey, this is the problem, and we could come up with the solution, but in reality, somebody else has already done the solution.
Yes.
But they're saying, hey, vote for me because I have the
Mm-hmm.
solution. That's the problem,
Right.
dude. That's the biggest problem. Vote for me because I have the
Right.
solution. That's the
Because no one's
biggest
talking about that.
problem.
You know
And
what? We'll probably be the first one. I'm gonna put that in a link down here for those of you watching and listening and having a conversation with us. I will put that in the link where it literally tracks where police have made these changes, and it tracks how the crime rates and all these discriminatory things have decreased. So these are some very real fixes, and people. I mean, and it's all over. I think so far out of the 50
Right.
states, I think maybe 46 or so have done 2 or more of these changes, and they're seeing a decrease, man.
I'll tell you the biggest spot that we could point out that's making the wrong changes, and this is even coming from the media.
Yeah.
Okay, so this we're talking about some fake news, all right, but we need to pay attention to it because they're telling us real stuff,
Yeah.
man. In New York, all
Mm-hmm.
right, so things are getting worse in New York, all right. At one point, things are great in New York. All right. Now they're saying let's defund the police. I think they pulled back like 4 different. They did defund the police, and they took back the crime unit. They're taking back certain
Mm-hmm.
units, which is the. That's not what you do, man. You're going to pull back all these crime units and everything else. What's going to happen? Everything's going to get better because the police aren't around.
Yeah.
Fuck
So we're
no,
going to have
dude.
to do some fact checking here, because the way I understand defund the police is not make it this federally regulated thing to where they're getting money, or okay, so they get a certain budget, but where they choose to spend the budget, they should be spending it. So if you
Right.
defund them, that doesn't mean they go away, they don't get money, but that kind of regulatory spending kind of goes away, and then they can spend money on more training, paying the officers more versus all these random bonuses that are
Okay.
going to the unions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I agree. I totally agree
Sorry.
with that. Totally agree with that. But here's what probably is really happening. Okay. So the mayor gets a budget,
Hmm.
right? The mayor gets a budget for the whole state, and or the governor gets a budget, and then he gives it to the mayor of the city. So we're talking about New York.
Hmm.
So the mayor gets a budget for New York, right? And he's got to spread this money out. You got to give a certain amount to schools. You got to give a certain amount to the police. You got to give a certain amount to, all this
Mm-hmm.
other stuff. Okay. So what they're saying, defund the police means instead of giving them, you know, and these numbers are low.
Yeah.
All right. These aren't real numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. But instead of giving them 33,000, we're going to go ahead and give them 20,000, and then we're going to, instead of giving the school, 20,000, we're going to give them 33,000 because we're taking it from the police.
Yeah. See, I'm not sure how any of
Now,
that works. We'll have to look at that and talk about it
right,
next episode.
but when you do something like that, I mean, you're kind of putting stress on the police force. You know what I mean? I understand what you're saying. So that's what I'm saying probably is really happening. So the mayor gets a budget. The mayor gets a budget. He's like, I'm supposed to give this much to the police, but instead I'm going to pretend like I give it to the schools and I'm going to pocket it, and then we're going to just not give it to the police. Now, what you're saying, right? No, a little deeper, but what you're saying, because in New York, if you go through the mayor's history, it gets crazy.
Is that De
But
Blasio?
yeah,
Oh,
De Blasio.
jeez.
When you go into New York, it gets insane with the scandals and
Yeah.
stuff. But all that aside, so you're supposed to give this much to the police. You don't, you pocket it or whatever, right? Instead of what you're saying, instead of implementing it differently, instead of taking the funds that you say you give 33,000 a year to the police, instead of saying you're going to give them 20, you still give them 33, but instead of giving it to a certain department or whatever, you give it to a certain thing, like you're saying with the training. Okay, let's, instead of giving 30,000 to the police department and 3,000 to the training, let's give fucking 10,000 to the training and whatever the other number is, because I'm not doing
Yeah, I
math.
know.
Department, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's kind of how it works. So when they do stuff like that, they don't do it like that. they do it differently. They're like, we're going to defund the police. Kind of like they said, we're not gonna do the New York light show this year, right? We don't want to infect people with the coronavirus. Well, bull fucking shit, dude. You have all these people doing riot throughout your whole city, and you're not gonna pay to have a memorial set up because you're worried about 10 people around 10 people, you know, to set up lights to fucking do it. No, it was because of the budget, and they were like, well, if we don't do this year, you know, that's going to save us $10,000 or however much it costs to shoot up those lights and pay the people to set it up. It save us that much, and we could keep it in the budget, and we won't look like such big assholes when it comes to election, right? No, you look like an asshole for not doing it, and you just tested the people's choice in a sense. Like you tested the waters, and they said fuck off, dude, and people were like, oh yeah, that's not happening.
I love election years like this because what it does is everyone is trying to win a vote, so they're a little bit more lenient as far as business loans and things like that. Grants are running rampant because I mean,
okay, so and because of that, dude, we dig ourselves in a hole. Every time the election comes up, we dig our because these people promise this and promise that,
and the bill comes due. The bill comes due,
and then wham, we all of a sudden we have them in there, and all their promises are fucking bullshit, dude. And you're like, God, and then you're stuck with them for the rest of the time, you know, and then you're like, well, fuck, dude,
man,
you know.
I'll tell you, we can't even begin to understand like how much voting and all of these different processes. I mean, there's a reason I think they took political science out of school. You know, like, hey, the dumber these kids are coming out of school, the more we can just program them how we want them to, and then get away with what we want. We can figure it out. The money I don't ever want to hear about the richest country in the history of the world talking about, well, that wouldn't be fruitful. When you have guys who, if you win a Senate race, right, then turn around in 2 years and lose that race, you still get paid for the rest of your life for what? For what? That's six figures that can go to a police station for better training. That's 6 figures that can be split evenly between the school in that area. You know, how do they have a lifetime wage, bro?
And with that too, man. So I said elections suck because we do it so often. Kind of an oxymoron, but we do need term limits, dude. Yeah. We do and then that means we're going to be doing elections or whatever. But if you have a term and somebody has to do good, they have to do good. If they don't have a term limit, they're going to do what they need to do. And then if they figure out that they can get paid from some
union, lobbyists,
or lobbyists for preaching some stupid shit,
there you go,
dude, and do it. I mean, that's what it is they preach stupid shit, and they don't. So there's some politicians I look at right now, and I'm like, God damn, dude, you hate America that much, right? You hate America that much, you're gonna do that shit. Like, and there's in my head, I'm like, how many Americans are really listening to you that hate America as much as you do, right? And that's and these politicians I'm talking, they've been there forever, dude. Man. They've been fucking ever, and it's because they don't hate America. They're getting paid by people to say what they're saying.
Right.
They might hate them. It's not that they like us either. If they really liked America, they wouldn't fucking be getting paid by people to say what they're saying, in a sense. So if you love America, some company's not gonna come in and bribe you, and you're gonna all of a sudden be for whatever the fuck before, right? Not American. And then, so if you do that, I think there has to be some kind of bill passed that says your district, right? Because you can't get voted into the Congress or the Senate without having a position already, right?
Well, not necessarily, but it's very rare that happens. There's a person who just got voted in. Like, she's into this QAnon stuff, where that basically says that everybody in power is a pedophile, and basically we got like Donald Trump is doing the things he does in order to secretly work with the FBI to get them all. Like, so that's pretty far out there. And this lady just won, I think, a House seat.
Fuck yeah,
she just won a House seat.
The FBI. The FBI is against Trump, dude. No.
Yeah, so what's so weird about it, because it's like I thought Mueller and the FBI were after Trump, man. It's like, no, it's all a ruse.
What?
It's all a ruse. It's a setup in order to go after the real bad guy.
Bill Barr, I mean, he's Trump too, but if it just depends. If he does something good for the other side, he's not for Trump. See, that's where that shit gets blurry too. Man. So you just blast the other side hardcore. But that's where we're going wrong as a like we went. So politics makes us dirty, man. So throughout the years, people were like, "Oh, if we run, we're going to talk shit about the other candidate." And then this is how, and then we'll win if we talk enough.
I hate that. It should be like, tell me how you're gonna fix it. You can't just
And now it's like, if you're against the other side, you have to be hardcore against them.
Well, it's Monday Night Football.
There's no middle.
It's Monday Night Football, man. It's the Cowboys versus the Eagles, right? It's our side versus their side. It's like, well, I don't like some things about my side. I can't talk about that. No, you can't. It's like, well, what am I supposed to do as a voter? I don't like this about the Democrats. I don't like this about the Republicans. The stuff is in the middle. It's kind of wacky, but it makes a little bit more sense. Like it feels too much, which is why I think everyone should be aiming for. All right, get back to your energy stuff, right? Getting yourself together. Work to fix your own aura and energy, and make sure you and the people around you are good and doing good in your community, right? Don't worry about all that other stuff.
And that's how small it gets. So people that kind of look outside it's not even looking outside the box. People that are looking inside the little computer screen and getting brainwashed and shit, and then doing stupid shit. That's because that's what's happening in cities, man. Honestly, so most of these crazy ass people that are coming out of the basements and doing shit, they're in basements and stuff, right? And they're coming out. They got this group that's like, oh, America fucking sucks, They're against everything American. Well, that's the energy that they're getting. And it's because of the screen right here. You're putting that shit in you. You're sitting on a cement slab instead of the earth, right? You're getting, and I sit Indian style everywhere I go, so I'm not in the chair, so I'm sitting on the earth, but you're sitting on a cement slab, so you're not getting the same. So when I went out to the mountain, dude, and my son was rappelling down, right? At that point, it was storming over us, right? It was about to rain. My rope cost $200. Too much to mess up, right? But it's not waterproof.
Oh, wow.
But it was starting to rain and shit, right? And, waterproof ones cost way more than $200.
Oh, okay.
But it started raining, and I'm like, okay, well, I have to get down, But I sit up at the top to wait for my son to get down, because I have to do a certain knot to get down and bring